Hello, I'm Nicholas Tuelli, a curator at the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria. To honor the United Nations International Decade for Women, we are pleased to bring you this program celebrating 100 years of contributions by women artists in British Columbia. During our program, we will enjoy a visual feast set to music that conveys the rich and diverse legacy we've inherited from our women artists. Emily Carr is certainly the best known of our artists, and we will hear through readings from her journals that her personal and artistic concerns are still relevant today. Let's go back in time now to 1885 with the arrival of the CPR on the West Coast and begin our story.
I was, I think, more a butterfly than anything else. I didn't really take life or painting too seriously because we weren't supposed to. Young, pretty girls were not supposed to. We naturally frequented the same cafes as the great artists. We saw Picasso at a table nearby. We didn't see Monet because he was stuck up on Montmartre, but we saw very, very many of the well-known artists, and that in itself is a stimulus. Emily had told me over and over during the winter, when our evenings in the studios, when we hooked rugs together and reminisced and so on, and she was very good company. When she got into the woods, she pondered about God. She even spoke to the trees. She could do that and not feel it was anything abnormal. And she'd sing sometimes. But she didn't really, it didn't really matter how she found her God. She did find him in the woods, and her sketches from then on became so lyrical and free.
I painted well today, working on the summer sketches, reliving them and loving them. I think I've gone further this year and have lifted a little. I see things a little more as a whole, a little more complete. I'm always watching for fear of getting feeble and passé in my work. I don't want to trickle out. I want to pour till the pail is empty, the last bit going out in a gush, not in drops.
If you can think of these lino cut prints in comparison with most of the work that preceded them of all kinds, it was all so pictorial, so detailed, so pretty, so all so photographic. And of course, that Flight himself in the painting world had been breaking away all the time too onto the more modern way of looking things. And when you came onto the lino didn't allow, you can't be fussy, you can't be pretty, you can't play about on it. And so it brought about its own technique almost, and its own different appearance to other prints. And so it did strike out a new line, really. And I think one always has to think of the difference between the lino and the work that preceded it. People have come into my studio sometimes. I had one woman one day, and she gave a little squeal one moment. She looked at a print on the wall and said, "Why, he hasn't got a face." Well, I said, "What he wants a face for?" And she was sort of astonished. Where I said, if you can't express the emotion of your figure through the position the figure's sitting in, it's no good trying to just put it on his face like making a face. It's got to be through his whole anatomy. There was a Esky bar. There used to be a bar on the corner of the road, just up by the power pole, beyond the hall. It used to call itself the Esky bar, and I think it was one time there was old Pete from across the road, and young Pete up the corner, and another chap from one of the other houses, and a fourth one. They were all in there, and I suppose I just saw them through the windows. I went by, and I thought they were fun. The different cotton caps and the different plaids. I thought they were so beautifully Canada, with all those plaid shirts and things. It made an exciting picture. And it's something that, done in the lino, you could bring out that more than paint. Paint hasn't got a clean enough line to it, like the lino has a clean line. You get the angle of the caps and the shapes, not merely their appearance.
I had once before visited these three villages, Skadance, Tanu, and Kumshua. The bittersweet of their overwhelming loveliness created a longing to return to them. The Indian had never thwarted the growth force springing up so terrifically in them. He had but homed himself there a while, making use of what he needed, leaving the rest as it always was.
North and south, we used to go to Cumberland quite a bit, to Chinatown. Chinatown was tremendous fun. It was so crazy, all these wonderful old cabins with chimneys coming out of the windows and all sorts of, doing everything they shouldn't do. But that's all swept away too now, so it becomes quite difficult to find something that hasn't been tidied up.
What about our side of Canada, the Great West standing before us? Big, strong, and beautiful. What art do we want for her art? Oh, it's different here. The spirit is different. Misty landscapes and gentle cows don't express Western Canada. Even the cows know that. Canada wants something strong, big, dignified, and spiritual that shall make her artist better for doing it, and her people better for seeing it.
I really think it's a woman's time right now. You know, I might be wrong about this, but I see a lot of women doing really interesting things, and a lot of people I know are very interesting women, you know, as opposed to interesting men. And I think that women are really beginning to feel more in touch with themselves and that they can do things. I mean, I just don't know that many women that would let themselves be held back. People are much stronger these days. You know, the economic times force us to be, not just the economic times, but the social climate. I think women are just becoming stronger and doing what they should do and doing what they feel they can.
It's going to be a series of the Four Seasons, twice, for a store downtown. And it's one of those marvelous opportunities where I'm going to have my own gallery permanently. You know, works that I seldom get to do because I like to work on this huge scale, and there's not too many jobs that come along that way where the opportunity arises. So, well, I go right back to my interest in sea and sky and atmospheres and color changes, and bring up the Four Seasons again, which is a theme I go back to every couple of years. So here I am doing these pieces. The four of them will be sky and sea, and changing each time through the seasons, virtually from the same point of view, which would be standing on Clover Point or Dallas Road looking south. That scene always has a miraculous quality for me for many, many reasons.
I figure that a picture equals a movement in space. The picture side of the thing is the relationship of the objects to each other in one concerted movement, so that the whole gets up and goes, lifting the looker with it. Sky, sea, trees, affecting each other. Lines at right angles that hold the eye fixed.
Well, as we move from summer, which is a very still movement, it's very horizontal, very placid. So moving into fall, I start at the top left, and then the heavy colors swoop down and vanish into the lower right. And that's a very deliberate movement. I'm thinking about summer going into fall, going into a dormant period. And suddenly life is being drained away. So you know, that movement is deliberate. It's not sort of a pretty picture of autumn and sunsets. It's a sunset feeling, but it's much more vigor and life in it than that. And then from that swoop down into fall, we then go into winter, which has a huge sort of undulating movement like this, symbolic of that furious sky that goes on all winter.
All forms in nature can be reduced to primary geometric solids. That is, a mountain may be represented by a cone or pyramid, a treetop is a cube or sphere, the trunk is a cylinder. To reduce such objects for purposes of pictorial design simplifies the problem to its lowest possible terms. When a picture is looked at, the relation of its forms and spaces should be felt emotionally, rather than thought about intellectually.
I don't believe in art being a propaganda and teaching lessons or being too literary when it could better be a poem. I think art is a bit of visual delight, and delight, you know, a great scale. It doesn't need to be pretty. I don't mean pretty, but a visual, something with a visual meaning because it's a visual entity. I think it should just be something that delights the eye and has an inner meaning that, like music, delights the ear and has an inner meaning that delights the soul.
Little book, I have toiled all day and caught nothing. It's the mountain again. There's nothing to it, just a fritter of nothing, like a foam sauce and no pudding to go with it. Well, I say to myself, lie down, old girl, and be quiet. Relax. It'll never come if you fuss. Leave it.
The thing is, I can't think about it, so it just happens. You know how Cézanne painted? If he met a place in his canvas that didn't seem to fit properly, and he couldn't really resolve what to do with it, he just left it empty.
One slumps fearfully as one grows old. It's difficult to understand what one should give in to as belonging to one's years and what one should combat as lazy indulgence. Oh, it's so easy to drift. There should come a time for quiet meditation and pondering over things spiritual. But great care should be taken not to sit vacant.
My career is sort of like a wild bush. You can make plans for it, but it goes its own way. And right now I'm very busy, and so that answers some of that. But where it will go, I have no idea, because I have an awful lot of ideas that I still haven't used, sculptural ideas as well as painting ideas. So I could go back to sculpture, or I could just continue with painting and keep changing the painting, or stay the same way. Now, I don't think my painting will stay the same way. Things never stay the same way very long for me.
My commitment as an artist, I feel, is just to continue and survive as best I know how. Taking me, I mean, as long as I can continue to paint for as long as I want to, which I assume will be the rest of my life, I'll do whatever I can to enable myself to do it.
So there are changes within what I'm doing, and there will always be new series because there's so much stuff out there to paint. I walk down the sidewalk and I say to myself, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to get around to all this stuff? Mind you, you have to organize it in a way that it's useful to you as an artist. You can't just paint it the way it is, but still, the stuff that's out there is just fantastic, and I couldn't live long enough, I don't think.
My life is full now toward the end. As I look back, the big thing has been work and more work. Remember, to me, the big thing is the doing, which I'm still at. Don't pickle me away as a done.
I think it's funny people talk about retiring. I haven't got time to retire.
Absolutely.
We'll put it another way, I haven't got time to die, dear. Too many exciting things to do in this world.
promised you a visual feast, and I think you'll agree we've had one. We may conclude two things. Our artists from the earliest years have made and continue to make vitally important and significant art in British Columbia. And surely there is a growing sense that our artists are also making a contribution to the wider scene as they are fully responsive to international currents. Secondly, the many chapters of this story lie in the lives of our creative people. There is still much to be told about the past 100 years, and when we consider the promise of our artists today, we have much to look forward to in the next 100 years. Thank you for watching our program.